So I want to start by thanking DCAN and its phenomenal mission in this area. Central Minnesota is so blessed, and I know you've all felt that. I want to just say thank you. And thanks for having me and the other speakers today. Thank you. I caught some of it on Zoom. I had earlier arrangements. I couldn't make it earlier, but Zoom technology is great, so welcome to the people who are watching live right now, or if you're going to watch the replay. So next I want to talk about, I want to make sure you all have the handout, okay? I don't do slides. I don't do PowerPoint, okay? I'm my own PowerPoint, and then I also like graphic organizers, okay? So you can't take PowerPoint with you. Of course, you can have the person email it to you. That's nice. But you all should have a handout, and it's stapled, and it's compassion fatigue. It's in your folder, okay? You all have that? I'm going to be talking from that. There's my PowerPoint, okay? So that's the focal point of the talk. All right. So before we get into that, though, I want to take a moment right now and validate the pain in this room. Okay, because each one of you here in this room physically, and each one of you watching live or the replay, we all have stories of pain and how dementia has left a wake of disaster. And we're here as a living testimony that it doesn't have to win, right? Hope. There can be hope and optimism in the midst of this horrific disease. So my stories will be different than your stories, of course, but I think one thing we can do today and the remainder of our days on this earth is to take time to look at people in their eyes and validate the pain that they're going through. The human brain loves that. We'll get into some of that later. So I want to take a moment and say I'm sorry for the pain that you have experienced from this horrible disease. The pain in my life, losing 2 uncles and losing my dear father-in-law, Michael Houlihan, from dementia. We could all go around today and spend the next 3 hours listening to each other's stories. And there'd be great value in that. I've been a licensed therapist since 1996 in Minnesota, and I work with families with dementia. I don't take new clients anymore. I'm finishing my doctorate, but I'm the earthly owner of the Center for Family Counseling, and the website's on the handout, and we've got phenomenal therapists there. But to be able to validate each other's pain, I'll be talking about that today because it's so, so critically important. In our society, I know we all agree to this, our society does not do this well. Have you noticed that? Like in your stories of Pat's chuckling, right? I mean, because in your stories of pain, we need to seriously find people who are able to first validate that. Because a lot of people don't know how to do that. We're a young society. America is a young society. And we're so focused on fixing things that we forget to validate the human pain that we all have. The human suffering in this room right now. Or the person watching right now online. So I'm in the camp that says this world would be a much better place if we slowed down, if we had a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or whatever, some water, and sat down and listened to each other's stories, cried with each other, hugged each other, and been more human to each other. So I want to start by validating all the pain here and recognizing that we've all got stories. I'll share some of those stories today as I go through my talk. Today I'll be talking about a lot of things, and it might get a little heavy at times, but I'm going to tie it right into the theme of caring for the caregiver, right? It's so very important. In the word compassion itself, there's a warning. Okay, the word compassion is 2 Latin words, com and passio. It means to suffer with. To suffer with. So when we are compassionate to each other or even ourselves, and we show ourselves or another person compassion, there can be compassion fatigue that can be produced from that. Anybody here familiar with compassion fatigue? Yeah, I see some hands. Anybody out watching live familiar with this? So I not only teach this stuff around different states, especially before COVID, but I've also lived through compassion fatigue. So we now have about probably 2.5 decades or so of research on compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue is where we can be literally weighed down by being compassionate, by being a caregiver. I've experienced that. I don't know if you've experienced that, but I have. So this whole notion of recognizing, of naming and taming compassion fatigue is critical. When it comes to dementia care, it's critical because so many of you are caring for a loved one, and it can weigh us down as humans. It can weigh us down. When's the last time you took a flight, domestically or internationally? Last week, last month, last year? Raise a hand. When? Last month? When? Last week. Last year, okay. All right. So you remember the spiel, right, when they get on after they talk about all the things, they say, what do they say? They say, if oxygen drops in the cabin, right, insert your credit card and you can buy some more, right? No, I'm sorry, they don't say that, okay. So anybody who works for the airlines, I'm sorry. If it drops, the masks will drop from the ceiling, right? Extend it out, put it on yourself first, and then put it on somebody who's unable to assist themselves. Correct? Did you hear that spiel last week? Yeah, okay. Why do they do that? You have to be able to make sure that you can breathe, because if you can't breathe, you can't save the person next to you. I have a son with Down syndrome. Beautiful, beautiful son. And when we fly with him, he wouldn't know what that is because his intellectual ability wouldn't know that. He would think it'd be like a free toy from the sky, right? So he'd be playing with it. And then he would slowly die from oxygen deprivation. That's why they say put it on my face first securely, and then I can wrestle my son, because it would be hard, he's 19 now, to put it on his face. This talk and this topic is so important, and it's really about putting the oxygen mask on yourself first. It's not selfish. It's so that I can breathe in and through and be the best Jim that I can be while I'm giving care to a loved one. If there's any questions you have while I'm going through this, feel free to just raise your hand and ask, or at the end you can ask as well. All right, let's jump into this. So compassion fatigue, as I mentioned, has been studied. There's a handout that I gave you. It's called the ProQual, the Professional Quality of Life. I really invite you to take that. You don't have to do it today, but please add it to your list sometime this week. Really important. So it's one of those really cool inventories that it's got statistical reliability and validity. Dr. Hoover talked this morning. He was my statistician teacher at SCSU when I finished my second master's degree. Did he leave? I saw him earlier. I was going to thank him. Anyway, he left. Okay, bummer. Anyway, so the ProQual is a legit deal, and you should have a copy of it. Fill that out. It'll take about 10 minutes. But as a licensed therapist, I use that in my life to be able to say where I'm at with compassion fatigue, because it measures compassion fatigue. Now we're going to go over your handout that you have. So pull it out if you want. We're just going to go over it and kind of fill in some blanks. So compassion fatigue there's a lot of definitions with compassion fatigue, but I'm going to use the one here on your handout from the Professional Quality of Life Elements Theory and Measurement. Okay, and that's it's copywritten by the ProQual.org, and I included the copyright on your handout. So compassion fatigue there's three kind of ingredients, if you will, for compassion fatigue. All right. The first one is low compassion satisfaction. That's the first line there at your handout. Low compassion satisfaction. Is everybody with me on the handout? Low compassion satisfaction. Okay, now compassion satisfaction, I define that right below that. That's the good stuff we get from caregiving. You know, when my father-in-law had dementia, we go down in Atlanta to visit him, you know, it's good to visit. And every time we go in his room, we'd open the door, and we'd knock and open the door, and he looked at us and he'd say, I knew you were going to come. And I was like, oh, thanks, Mike. You know, I knew you were going to come. There's hope. You know, there's hope, right? The human spirit has hope. So compassion satisfaction is the good stuff we get from giving. When your compassion fatigue is high, you'll have low compassion satisfaction. Does that make sense? You'll have your tank will be not very full. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is moderate or high burnout. That's the B, burnout. So if your burnout level is moderate or high, that could lead to compassion fatigue. And burnout is, you know, feeling hopeless or a feeling of inefficiency. Like there's no hope here. That's what I was talking about, hope earlier, okay? That's those feelings of burnout, okay? And then lower high secondary traumatic stress. That's the S there. Secondary traumatic stress. STS, secondary traumatic stress. What's that? Well, that's actually stress that we can get when we hear detailed information about trauma, medical trauma, etc. It affects our brain chemistry. Okay, so that is one pretty solid clinical definition of compassion fatigue. When you put that all together, you've got low compassion satisfaction, and you've got moderate or high burnout, and moderate or high secondary traumatization. You might have compassion fatigue. I've had it in my life, and it's no fun. But we can work through it, and we can get better on the other side of it. So any questions about the definition of compassion fatigue from this inventory especially, which was created by, it's copywritten, but I got that right there. I got permission for it. Any question on the definition, what compassion fatigue is, because that's kind of important before we move on. You're all following me? All right. And I'm sorry I can't entertain live questions on the Zoom call. I actually like Zoom stuff. I do it professionally, but I can't entertain questions there. I'm sorry. So, all right. So let's move on then. When you take that inventory there's a handout there. Please take that this week, tonight, or sometime. Okay. When you take that and you find out, oh boy, I'm kind of borderline on compassion fatigue. Okay. It's a warning sign there. It's just a warning that says, hey, let's step back and let's start altering our schedule. Let's start changing our schedule, okay? Because that's kind of where I start. So now if you go to page 2 on your handout, page 2, taming compassion fatigue through using our time differently. Everybody there? Mm-hmm. Awesome. So a little story I have. I like stories. Okay, stories are powerful, right? They're powerful. Stories can tell truths that other things cannot. So when I had compassion fatigue, I was actually working as a chaplain in Grand Forks Hospital, and that was the summer, the year that my mom got diagnosed with cancer, and so I decided to be a chaplain on the oncology ward that summer, and it was a very draining summer. My compassion fatigue was high. I actually think untreated compassion fatigue can slip into depression and anxiety, by the way. Okay? So I think mine slipped into depression that summer. But what I found myself doing was wasting time. I did. Now, this was before Facebook. This was before a lot of this stuff, right? These smartphones that are making us dumber, right? This was before that, okay? But so I had to take a serious prayerful look at I'm a committed Christian, and I had to take a serious prayerful look at how I'm using my time in my life. And that's why I have this right here, because when I'm working with clients, one of the first things they'll say, well, I don't have time for that, Jim. I don't have time for that. I don't have time to, to do the deep breathing. I don't have time to do well, okay, I have a question, that's all. My question is this, right? Is there any time in your life that you're kind of killing? I call them time asides. Any time in your life, I was killing time when I had compassion fatigue. Why? Because I was numbing my pain. That's why. I didn't want to feel it. But in order to heal, you got to feel. We just got too much data that shows that. So I was numbing the pain and not healing it. And that's not a good thing, because it's not going to, numbing doesn't lead to healing. Like as a surgeon, you don't numb something and then just leave it there, right? Okay, you numb it for an end. There's an end in mind. Okay, you numb it temporarily so you can go change the change, and then it gets unnumbed so you can start using it again. So in order to heal, we got to feel, and I was avoiding that. So I had to come to serious gym talk. Okay, and I say, where am I wasting my time? How am I in my life? What am I doing? And I found some things. So this whole section is just about looking at time asides. Time asides on that first line, wasting time. That's what it is. It's killing time. Time is one of the most precious, valuable assets that we have. Because it's gone. Now it's gone. The present moment is here. Poof, now it's gone. You ever thought of that? And it's so precious. The present moment is so precious. So to look at time-asides in my life was really, really huge. Unproductive screen time is a major time-aside in our society, as research shows. So what's unproductive screen time? Mindlessly scrolling through Facebook feeds, mindlessly scrolling through Instagram feeds, mindlessly scrolling through YouTube videos. Before I know it, on YouTube, I'm watching REO Speedwagon from the 80s. And how did I get to that? How'd that happen? I don't know how that happened. It's ridiculous. It's like a vortex. I get like sucked into it, you know? So, and this is a powerful tool. But like fire, a tool can be used for vicious reasons or virtuous reasons, right? It's a powerful tool. I've got an awesome Bible on here, and I take all my notes on here. It organizes my life. I can text my wife and my kids, et cetera, et cetera. It's a good tool. So I no longer waste a lot of time on this through prayer and through mentorship, et cetera. But I'm offering this to you because it's really important if this applies to you. If it doesn't, that's fine. That's no problem. Not everybody wastes time. I understand that. In fact, some of us use time so efficiently, you need to schedule what I'm going to talk about next. Okay? All right. So, if you're in that camp, that's great. That means you've got time down, you use your time wisely, but you may have to you may still have to look at your time and add some of these compassion fatigue busters that I'm going to talk about next. But I want to talk about time first. So, all right. We need to reinvest some time. That's the reinvest right there. We got to reinvest time. Now, the good news, 30 minutes a day. That's it. We're not talking about hours and hours and hours. We're talking about 30 minutes a day. If you can commit to 30 minutes a day, if you got low or high compassion fatigue right now, when you take that inventory, like I hope today, okay, or this week, and you notice you got, moderate or high, and you commit to 30 minutes a day, just 30 minutes a day, I can nearly guarantee, I can't completely guarantee, but I can nearly guarantee that 30 days from today, you're going to feel a little better. Why? Because you're a human being. You're not a Martian. Okay, you've got human physiology. And we've been studying this stuff for decades. We know what works, we know what doesn't work. So any questions on the time aside? Any questions on 30 minutes a day? No, 30 minutes doesn't. It's just the bold one there, okay? But the next questions I do have is going to go, this is how much unproductive screen time I have per day. I want you to fill that out. That question says, this is how much unproductive screen time I have per day. So, I'm not going to ask you to share this, okay? Don't put it on Facebook, okay, unless you want to. That's fine, okay? But how much unproductive screen time do we honestly have per day? Seriously. Now we've got apps that track it. Like my daughter and I will watch that. We'll say, hey, how was your week this week, okay? What was your number one app use, okay? So, I don't know. Yours might be an hour. Yours might be 2 hours. It might be the average of the average American, which I'd say would be around 4 hours or so, if you include TV, of unproductive. Now, there's productive screen time as well. Productive screen time is, like I just said, I do a ton of research on this thing. National Institutes of Health, National Institutes of Mental Health.org, our tax dollars at work. There's a lot of good stuff on the internet. I'm not a Luddite. I'm not against technology. I just want to use it so it doesn't use me. Any other questions? That's a good question. Any other questions on time? Yeah, so like watching a good movie with a loved one, right? Doing research, right? Using this tool to produce some music that can calm you down when you're stressed. Using this tool to pull up videos of Sanibel Island, which is my peace place, and listen to Sanibel Island while I'm meditating. That's productive screen time. Question? Yep. She talked about meditation. Okay. Any other questions before I move forward on time? Pretty clear? Pretty simple, but very, very important, because I want you to see graphically where you can grab 30 minutes from. Because you got it. So do I. We've all got 24 hours. And 30 minutes makes a huge difference. All righty. Let's talk really quick then, if there's no other questions, on the quick science of habits and willpower. So a lot of cognitive psychologists tells us that habitual actions are about 40 to 90% of what we do every day, habitually. 40 to 90%. In other words, I'm doing things I'm not even thinking about. Like it's almost there's a no-brainer to it. 40 to 90% of our behavior is habitual. So this is the first talk I've given solo post-COVID, right? Wow. So I used to do this a lot before COVID, and my wife and I give marriage workshops around the nation and parenting workshops as well, and I love talking to nonprofits, and I did a lot of that pre-COVID, right? But this is my first one solo post-COVID. So I was telling my wife, pray for me because I'm hoping it's like a bike. I hope I don't forget, right? I hope I don't just fall off and whoa. Okay, so right, that's I hope I don't do. All right, I don't think I'm doing that, but my point though is it's habitual. I've been talking for decades, and I love to give talks, and I love to teach. So that's why I'm finishing my doctorate. So the human brain now only has a little willpower every day. Big shocker, right? Okay, like we're talking maybe 15 minutes willpower. That's not a lot, okay? So if you look at this and you say, okay, the human brain only has a little bit of willpower every day, and what I do, 50 to 90% according to some cognitive psychologists, depending on who you study, is habitual. Well, then you know what I'm going to do? I want to take my 15 minutes of willpower and invest in a new behavior that's going to reap great benefits today and in the future. That's what I'm going to do. Because if I can do that, if I can learn a new behavior, okay, eventually that's going to be what? Habitual. And once it's habitual, what can I do with my 15 minutes of willpower then? I can learn another behavior that's going to pay great dividends, right? You see what I'm saying? It's a great, great way to use psychology and positive psychology and cognitive psychology to say, hey, here's a little boost for y'all. Here's how you can transform your life. I mean that, seriously. Here's what you can do. So any questions on that, this whole quick science of habit and willpower? Obviously, there are graduate courses on this stuff, right? I'm kind of just narrowing this down and saying, hey, here's kind of what I've learned. Any questions on that, on the willpower piece? We have a little bit of willpower, but a majority of what we do is habitual. So if we take that little willpower and invest it in a new behavior that can reap great benefits today and in the future, that's going to help us tremendously. Well, Jim, what about what new behaviors? Oh, good question. Let's get to that. Sound good? All right. Healthy behavior, habit number 1, review the power of self-talk. Now, I think Dr. Hoover mentioned some of this. I caught the tail end of it. He didn't talk a whole lot about it, so I'm telling you right here, who today talked to themselves? Yeah, right? Thank you for your honesty, okay? If you didn't raise your hand, well, that's fine, okay? So, but I'm telling you, though, we all talk to ourselves, every one of us. It's some of the most powerful words you will hear in the day. So my question, is it grace-based or garbage-based? That's my question. Grace-based talk is, a little compassionate, Garbage-based talk, which I used to be inundated with when I had compassion fatigue. Well, you can't do that, Jim. Well, maybe somebody else can. Well, you're so stupid. Why'd you do that? Okay, now, those were real examples of what I used to tell myself. And it was pulling me down. I hated it. So I had high garbage-based self-talk in the past. And I worked on that. How did I work on that? Well, thanks for asking. Here's how I worked on that. I worked on that to develop a new habit that I had for 15 minutes, and that turned into a habitual behavior, which I now do. So now my garbage-based self-talk is like 0. Praise the Lord. Okay, I mean, it's like I don't do it anymore. I hate it. And now I teach. Pardon me? The question is, what do? I do a lot of grace-based self-talk. So instead, I will tell myself, hold it. Yeah, Jim, I'm not perfect. And of course I made a mistake. But because I made a mistake doesn't make me a mistake. I make distinctions in life. Very important. I always make distinctions. So that's a good question. That's what I do instead. I increase my grace-based self-talk. It's critically important, folks, because again, some of the most powerful words you will hear today are words you tell yourself. Words you tell yourself. And so many people, oh my goodness, we just beat ourselves into a pulp. And it's so sad. So here's something that could help you, okay? If you go to the next, so let's just follow along here. Healthy habit number 1, how many times per hour, here's fill in the blank question for you. Here are how many times per hour I have grace-based self-talk. That's a question on your handout. Okay, it's not a rhetorical question. I want you to fill that out.
How many times have you told yourself positive things today throughout this day? Okay? And then the next one, how many times have you told yourself negative or garbage-based self-talk today? Okay? And again, I'm not gonna ask to share answers here, right? Okay? Or if because today was not it's what they call a statistical outlier, right? It's not normal, because you're not normally in a room of people, right, for 8 hours. Think about yesterday, okay, or fill it out tomorrow. That's fine too, okay? But my whole point in here is naming which one is higher. Your grace-based or your garbage-based? Which one is higher? That's my whole point here. Okay? So go to the next page, page 3, and it's going to say which one is larger. Which one is larger, the grace-based or the garbage-based? Okay? And then here's some ways, if you noticed in your life, like I noticed in my life, the garbage-based were higher, here are some specific ways you can get to that ratio that's going to help you out. You can stop the garbage-based and increase the grace-based. Okay? Here's some specific ways right here. Remember these things that are making us dumber, right? Okay? Set an alarm every hour. And when it goes off, review your self-talk. Just review it and say, hey, how was it this last hour? Was it more garbage-based or more grace-based? Just review it and make adjustments. Okay? That's one way you can do it. That's really, really helpful. Write down today or tomorrow. There's a slot. There's 3 spaces right here. Here are my 3 grace-based truths I will tell myself every hour. Write those down. Write them down because it's so critically important. In fact, I actually want to give you 2 minutes to do that now. That's how important this is. Okay. So right now we're on page 3. You're all on the same page. There's 3 blank lines right there. 3 blank lines. Okay. Here are 3 grace-based truths I tell myself every hour, or that I will tell myself every hour from here on forward, okay? I'm going to give you 2 minutes right now. Fill them out. As a committed Christian, I use biblically based self-talk. You use what you want for grace-based self-talk. Like, I'm a good person. I'm a good grandma. I'm a good dad. Okay? Use what you need to that's positive in your life. So I'm going to have 2 minutes. Go ahead and do that, and I'll talk in 2 minutes. Okay, now, thank you. You don't need to share, but in general, how did that go? Hard. Yeah, I've heard that. I'm sorry. I have heard that before. It's hard. I've heard that over the decades. It's hard. It feels like bragging. It feels like I'm being proud, Jim. I'm a Christian too, and pride it's a sin, remember? Yes, it is. But if you're a Christian, there was a guy, let me think here. This is the first talk I've given after COVID. Remember that? Did I tell you that? This guy named Jesus. And he says something like, love the Lord your God, love your neighbor, and love, yourself. Okay. So it's actually not pride to tell yourself 3 positive things every hour. It's not. It's hard because you weren't taught it. I wasn't taught it. Believe me, I wasn't taught it. But with your insightful question, what did you do instead? Okay, I remember that question. She asked me, what did I do instead when I used to be garbage-based, okay, self-talk? This is what I did. I'm giving it to you. This is what I did. It's huge. Well, I did other things as well, right? I mean, but spiritual direction, some therapy, other things I'm going to talk about soon, etc. But this is huge. Self-talk is huge. Positive self-talk. So if it's hard for you, my invitation is, first of all, validate that. I'm sorry it's hard. That's understandable. Very understandable. And for a lot of people, it's hard. I'm not denying that. It was hard for me. And then second, get some help from a friend who loves you so much, who will remind you to do this. Okay? Because they'll help you. Okay? They'll help you. They'll give you a kick if you need it every now and then. Come on, listen to that Jim dude. Come on, let's go. Okay? Where are your 3? Did you do that today? Okay? We all need people to kind of hold us gently accountable. Okay? Any other observations about this garbage-based versus grace-based self-talk? Very important stuff. Thank you. So if it's hard, stick with it. Stick with it, please. Stick with it. And I'll pray for you. I've actually been praying for everybody here. I love talking to nonprofits, and when I get asked to talk, I start praying for them. And for the people online as well, I've been praying for you. Okay, any other questions on anything I talked about up to this point? Because now we're going to get kind of some heavy stuff, okay? But it's good, and it's directly appropriate. Any other questions before we get into the more heavy stuff? Okay. All right, let's move on then. So those are the 3 grace-based. Now, compassion fatigue, we just know this, it can alter our brain chemistry. Like I said, like the untreated compassion fatigue in my life back in the 90s when I was at Chaplain in the hospital, I'm convinced it led to depression in my life. Okay, I'm convinced of that, okay? So I had to work through that. So we know now, healthy habit 2, utilize what I call compassion fatigue biology 101. So now, I want to apologize to all the biologists in the room, okay? Because there are, literally graduate courses in this, okay? That's the first thing. Second, for the non-biologists, please don't fall asleep, okay? So I'm trying to make this as engaging as possible because this is really, really, really important. Very important. I'm going to show you why in a minute. Okay. So we're under healthy habit 2 now in your handout, utilizing compassion fatigue biology 101. Everybody see that? You got blank lines there? Okay. Depending on the research, the brain has about 100 billion with a B neurons. Isn't that crazy? 100 billion neurons with a B. That's a lot. That's a big number. And they communicate chemically and electrically. That's how they communicate, with chemicals and electricity. They don't touch each other. There's that synaptic gap. You've heard of that synaptic gap, right? They communicate chemically and electrically. I just find that amazing. The next paragraph, the brain is about 2% roughly of the body weight, right? It's a relatively small organ, right? 2%, but it uses about 20% of the oxygen in the body. And it uses it very rapidly. So 2% of the body weight, very small, and it uses about 20% of the oxygen that your body takes in. So it's an oxygen machine, right? It will prioritize itself, right? So, but this leaves it vulnerable to what? That third paragraph, oxidative stress. Oxidative stress. And oxidative stress, when you dive into the research, there's some good parts of that, but too much of it is not good, okay? So we want to try to avoid too much of that oxidative stress. So this is a reason we want to make sure we're consuming many good antioxidants. That's the AO, antioxidants. And then I gave you a list of real good antioxidants, okay? Organic greens, apples, moderate dark chocolate. I have that every day. Any dark chocolate fans in the room? Yeah. Oh, yeah. 85% Aldi? Yes. Huh? Oh, yeah. I have it every day. Did you know that? That's like medicine. It's full of anandamides. This is not your handout, but anandamide is a pleasure chemical. Dark chocolate it's a health food if you eat it moderately, okay? It's an antioxidant. It's good for you, okay? Grapes, nuts, green tea. I have green tea every day. I switch from coffee to green tea, okay? Fish, berries, etc. We want to be consuming these antioxidants to help our brain to prevent compassion fatigue and depression and anxiety. See how that works? Because the brain is going to use a lot of oxygen, so it's vulnerable. So we got to be real gentle with our brain, okay? Now, this is the last paragraph here on this page. The brain communicates through neurotransmitters, right? We've mapped out some of them. We haven't mapped all of them, norepinephrine, GABA. I want to focus on serotonin. That's the one with the S there. Serotonin, okay? Serotonin, you've all heard that, okay? Serotonin is a very calming and a stabilizing neurotransmitter, all right? It's calming and stabilizing. It does way more than that, and that's why serotonin, it's calming and stabilizing. Everybody with me yet on the fill in the blanks? Okay? All right, so serotonin. Now, the next page. Change pages, right? Any questions on that, on the run through, any questions on that, of the brain? Any questions? Because if you had a question, somebody else has the question. It's all right. Like when I have a bachelor's degree in philosophy. And my first philosophy class in college, the philosopher got up there and he said, "Now, I want to tell you, class, that is a legitimate question in philosophy." Huh? Okay. So I'm cool with That's all right. Any questions on this whole miracle we call the human brain? Yes, please.
What is the difference between
Dopamine
dopamine and oxytocin?
and oxytocin. They're
They're both feel good.
so again, I want to apologize to all the biologists in the room, but dopamine and oxytocin. So oxytocin is a bonding chemical neurotransmitter, correct? Yeah. So it's very high after mother gives labor. It's very high in teenage women when they go through puberty. Oxytocin is right up there with estrogen and progesterone. It's a bonding hormone. And when you're high in that bonding hormone, you want to offer peace to each other. We've got studies with oxytocin. This is a great question, by the way. It was a blind study, so the participants didn't know what it was. There were two males, and they were talking about a new nasal spray and how it can help with viruses. Well, it wasn't a virus nasal spray. One had oxytocin, and the other one had a placebo, okay? And they gave both of them, one had the placebo, nothing, the other one had oxytocin. They didn't know that. They thought it was for nasal congestion. Two males. Then they told both these two males, after the sniff of oxytocin, they said, "By the way, I just want to let you know that," they brought him into the room, "I want to let you know that, your girlfriend was cheating on you. Here's some proof." And the guy who had oxytocin was, "Well, that's okay. I mean, I can understand. Life is hard." No, really, this is real research. The other guy was like ballistic through the roof. Okay, so dopamine is a real powerful neurotransmitter that is, so it's involved with focus, but it's also involved with other things, learning, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a good question. And again, we've only scratched the surface on this, but that's a great question. Does that address your question a little bit? Yeah? Okay. Feel good. Well, yeah, that's good enough for me. It works for me. So, okay, yeah. Okay, good question. Any other questions? I want to focus on serotonin today because it's really powerful when it comes to calming compassion fatigue, because serotonin is really a calming neurotransmitter, okay? It's a very calming neurotransmitter. So now I'm on the fourth page, okay? And the fourth page starts, the complex web of compassion fatigue can easily mess up healthy levels of serotonin and oxytocin and other neurotransmitters because it's a delicate balance in our brain, okay? Now here's really important here. The brain has only one source of quote-unquote raw materials to make all the trillions of neurotransmitters and hormones that it needs to run efficiently. One source, only one source. What's that source? Any guess? Yeah. What I put in my mouth. Whatever I put in my mouth is the raw material my body has to create the serotonin, the oxytocin, the dopamine, the GABA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all the hormones, all the neurotransmitters that I need to run efficiently. In America, that's kind of scary, I think, okay? Because we have what's called the SAD, the Standard American Diet. Yeah, it's sort of scary because the SAD leads to SAD, Standard American Disorders, right? Because our diet, unfortunately, is high inflammation-based. It's very high inflammation. And what I'm studying with my doctorate, and I'm sure a lot of other folks out there who teach classes on this that I know, only a little bit about, inflammation, chronic inflammation, is really at the source of many disorders, including depression, anxiety, okay, heart disease, cancer, inflammation, chronic inflammation, okay? So anything I put in my mouth, that's the source. That's the raw material that my body has to create all the hormones and neurotransmitters to run my brain and my body efficiently. All right? Now, here's something really powerful, I think, about, anybody know this? What percentage of serotonin is created in the gut? 95% plus. 95% plus is created in the gut. When I say the gut, I'm not just talking about the stomach. I'm including what's called the enteric nervous system. Okay? Enteric, E-N-T-R-I-C. The word enteric starts with the E. The word eat starts with E. Okay? So The enteric nervous system goes from the throat all the way down to the opening of the large intestine. Okay, I mean, it's all the way through our gut. That's our gut system, okay? That's what, when I say gut, that's what I'm talking about, not just the stomach, okay? 95% of serotonin is created in the gut. That's important. So another way to say this is if your gut is not healthy, your brain cannot be healthy. If your gut is not healthy, your brain cannot be healthy. It can't be. And it's sad because I think that happens a lot in our society. And that's where we look at this holistic approach, to dementia care or to mental health. One of the things in our treatment plans always is increase, we'll get to this, right? But increase activity, right? Meditation, et cetera, that we know can heal. Okay, so the gut and the brain. I'm on the next paragraph now. The gut is not healthy if your brain is not healthy. Okay, the gut has its own bacterial environment. Are you familiar with that? The microbiome. The gut has its own bacterial environment. The good bacteria in our gut is critically important. You've heard of probiotics? Yeah, that's good bacteria. And then prebiotics, that's good prebacteria, which feeds the good bacteria. So our bodies need this. They need this good gut environment, okay? Y'all with me thus far? I know this is heavy stuff, but okay. So now we're going to get some, okay. The gut and the brain are connected by one of the largest nerves in the body called the vagus nerve. And it's from the Latin, the same Latin word as vagabond. So it stands for wandering, because if you look at a picture of a vagus nerve, it wanders everywhere. It connects a lot, okay? That's the vagus nerve. Now, why am I sharing this? Because this nerve helps the autonomic nervous system, the ANS. Y'all with me where I'm at? It helps the autonomic nervous system, okay? The ANS is on 24 hours, sort of like a caregiver and a parent. So you know that, okay? It's on 24 hours. Now I'm on the paragraph that says the ANS is split up into 3 subdivisions. You with me? Okay? So the first one is enteric. I already shared that one. There's not a space for that, but today we're going to talk about 2 of them. The SNS is the sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system. SYMPATHETIC. Sympathetic. Okay? Sympathetic. And then the next one is the parasympathetic. So it's PAR and then sympathetic, parasympathetic. Okay, so sympathetic and parasympathetic. Y'all with me there? Okay. Now you're saying, Jim, what? I'm falling asleep. Get to the point, will you? Okay, all right. I'm gonna. Hang with me, okay? Just hang with me, okay? This is really important. Like, for example, you couldn't read without the ABCs, right? You can't spell without the ABCs. This is compassion fatigue 101 ABCs, and I'm going to get to it in a minute, all right? Trust me. Thank you. Okay. So now the word stress starts with the letter S, right? Right? And the word sympathetic starts with the letter S. That's how my little brain remembers this stuff, okay? I had a learning disability as a kid. Made fun of, dyslexic, overweight, bullied, etc. Okay? So, in fact, I had a teacher in high school say, you shouldn't even go on to college. So I'm truly glad that I didn't listen to him, okay? Truly glad, grateful, okay? So, but you can imagine the negative, the garbage-based self-talk from this little kid, right? Yeah, exactly, okay? So, okay, all right. So the word S starts with this, the word stress starts with an S, and the word sympathetic starts with a stress. Sympathetic nervous system is sort of the stressful side of the nervous system. That's not bad. Not all stress is bad. You couldn't listen to me right now without the sympathetic nervous system. It's good. It's a good thing. Okay? It's a good thing. But the problem in America, I'll get to it in a minute, the problem in America is that it's on a lot. That's the problem. The sympathetic nervous system was never meant to be on all the time. It was meant to be counteracted by the parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, and we'll get to that. Now I'm on page 5, the very next page. And it says, it starts with, but the sympathetic nervous system is not created to be on all the time. You following that? Good. All right. So, check this out. The word peace starts with a P. Well, what word starts with a P around here? The parasympathetic nervous system. See, there you go. Now, here's why I'm sharing all this stuff. The next time you're stressed out because you're caregiving, or the next time you're stressed out because your garbage-based self-talk is too high, okay? Don't tell yourself you're going crazy. Don't tell yourself that you'll never get this. Don't tell yourself you're a failure. Tell yourself, oh, my sympathetic nervous system is kind of high today. I'm serious. Tell yourself that instead of that garbage-based self-talk. This is grace-based self-talk. My sympathetic nervous system is kind of high today. What should I do about that? Well, let me go back to that handout that dude talked about, and let me see what I can do for that. Okay? That's why I'm talking about this. So now you got a whole new set of language. Many of you, some of you know this. Some of you teach this way more than I know. But some of you don't, and that's all right, because now you got a whole new set of language to talk about stress in your life. You're not bad. Actually, stress isn't bad either. But too much stress can be very bad. Too much sympathetic nervous system is very bad. It leads to chronic disease and disorder. The body can only heal effectively and efficiently when it's parasympathetically dominant. Okay? So we want to be parasympathetically dominant throughout the day. We want to be peaceful throughout the day. Any questions on this stuff, on this compassion, fatigue, biology 101? Any questions? And
I'm Joyce, wait.
she said, I'm thinking clergy must. I'm thinking clergy.
Yeah, this has got to be really applicable to clergy because they're dealing with everybody's junk and
Yeah, the
they
comment
don't
is
have any room for their own.
the comment is right on target. And as a matter of fact, I give this similar talk to clergy around different.
I would think they would need a whole bunch of help.
Well, okay. Whenever I'm asked, I'll go. I love I love talking to clergy, as a matter of fact. So yeah, good comment. Any other questions or comments on this? And so even though yes, clergy, that's correct, but don't minimize your own stress as well. That's why I'm offering it. Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Okay, this serotonin, is there any artificial way of getting how do we get
Dear.
serotonin?
Okay, so the question is there any artificial way of getting serotonin? So, yes. Okay, so I'm going to talk about some natural ways to increase peace in our lives, okay? Yeah, so I'm going to get to that. That's a good question. Okay, how do you increase serotonin? Well, one way you can increase it is to don't eat the standard American diet. Okay, avoid that. So you can go ahead. Sure. One way you can help your body, okay, is to avoid the standard American diet because it's high in inflammation. So that's one way. I'm going to get to a couple of strategies that can help bring in more peace to the body as well. So that's a really good question. How do you increase serotonin? Okay. Yeah, good question. I'll get to that next. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? That's a really good question. Okay. All right. I go to 3:40. Is that correct? I think. Okay. Thank you. Good. I got a clock right here. Good. Okay. We're doing good. All right. So, another way to answer that question is how do I activate the parasympathetic nervous system? That's what we're into now. Okay. So you can. There's many ways you can activate it. The first way here, you're with me? There's a line there. Okay. Heart rate variability training. That's a big phrase, but it's so cool. Heart rate variability training, HRV for short. Heart rate variability training. Huge science, about 2 decades worth. Well, heart rate variability was discovered by the surgeons apparently decades ago, where they recognized that the heart has, every beat has variations to it. Did you know that? Isn't that amazing? I just love anatomy. It's crazy. Every beat of your heart has a variation to it. Well, then a psychologist got a hold of it, and we started manipulating that and saying, well, what can we literally control that? And now we can. Mind-body connection, right? You're familiar with mind-body connection? Yeah? And how my mind can influence my body? It's crazy, but it's true, okay? So heart rate variability basically measures, like when I talk to nonprofits, I like to, sometimes if I got enough time, I'll bring my equipment and I'll hook up the president, for example, to the heart rate variability monitor. and we'll put it up on the screen, okay? And we'll see how kind of stressed out they are. Heart rate variability kind of, the monitor that I have looks at heart rate variability in your body, okay? Low heart rate variability is correlated with high disease. Do you know that? Low heart rate variability is correlated with high disease. High heart rate variability is correlated with high health, with good health, with longevity. So with heart rate variability, you really want high heart rate variability. Why is that? Well, I'll tell you why. One of the reasons why, lots of reasons why. One of the reasons is because it helps the body to go into parasympathetic and sympathetic system quicker at a higher rate. It can adjust better, okay? That's why. That's one of the reasons. There's other reasons why, but that's one of the reasons why. So when I hooked up this president, we looked on the screen. We didn't see the picture of me, by the way. We saw his current state, and there was some red in it. So in my readouts, you've got red and green and blue, okay? That was his pre-training condition. Well, then I taught him what I'm going to teach you, and we did 3 minutes of heart rate variability training, just 3 minutes. You got 3 minutes? Well, I'm going to give it to you right now, okay? We did 3 minutes. I taught him live right there, exactly what I'm going to teach you next. After that, I hooked him up to the monitor again, and he was out of the red zone. 3 minutes. So in 3 minutes, we took a low heart rate variability state and took it to a moderate heart rate variability state. Isn't that cool? 3 minutes. What do we do? Here's what we did. Thanks for asking. Here's what we did. I began by saying, here's what you want to do. There's lots of ways you can do heart rate variability training. Professional athletes have been doing this all the time, okay? Here's one way you can do it. Shoot for 5x5 breathing, okay? 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out. That's the goal. But when I first started this training, I couldn't do 5x5. So don't hyperventilate, okay? We're going to do 3x3. 3 seconds in, 3 seconds out, because that's what I taught the president that day, and that's exactly what showed up on our monitor that brought him from red to green, okay? Which was really cool. So start with 3x3. When I first started this training years ago, I couldn't do 5x5. The good news is our lungs have plasticity to them. They can increase their capacity. That's why Navy SEALs can hold their breath for an amazing amount of time, okay? You can increase your lung capacity, okay? So, but we're not going to do it today. That happens over time. So today we're going to go 3x3. I'm going to pull up my stopwatch, so I'm not, texting or anything like that. I'm just going to pull up my stopwatch, okay? Well, Jim was checking his email when he was giving the talk. No, I'm really not. No. I got my stopwatch here. So we're going to go 3 seconds in, so it's going to go 3 seconds in, 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. So breathe in, 3, breathe out, 2, 3. Okay, that's what 3x3 breathing is. But there's a couple other things your heart really likes, okay? Think about your peace place. So for me, that's Sanibel Island, okay, down in Florida, right off of, very close to Fort Myers. But I saw pictures, yeah. Oh, no, I know, it did, but they rebuilt the bridge very quickly, yeah. Yes, oh, yeah, it's, right, it's beautiful. But anyway, yeah, it got really hit hard by the last hurricane, yeah. Anyway, another peace place, wherever you feel peaceful. So for this president of this pretty large nonprofit organization, his peace place was his recliner in his living room, because he traveled a lot as president, right? So that's where he was, what he was doing. He was imagining being there, okay? And then the second thing is just to, when you're breathing in, just kind of feel some warmth around your heart. Be good to your heart. Be gentle to your heart. Your heart is an amazing organ. Just feel some warmth around it, okay? That's what 3x3 breathing is. So before we do this, I want everybody to take their pulse right now, all right? So there's actually a space for it on this same sheet, okay, where you write it down. Excuse me. Everybody know how to do the 3x3 breathing? I'm going to start that soon, but before we do, I'm going to take your pulse, okay? So I'm going to say, ready, set, go. And when I say go, then grab your pulse. Remember, don't use your thumb for your pulse, because your thumb has a pulse. You can take it on your wrist, or you can take it on your neck. Everybody got a pulse? I hope so. Okay, you getting your pulse? All right. I'm going to say ready, set, go. And when I say go, you start counting. I'm going to go for 10 seconds. We'll multiply that by 6, and that's your beats per minute right now, before heart rate variability training. Okay? Ready, set, go. Stop. That was 10 seconds. Multiply that number by 6, and that's your beats per minute right now. Just write that number down. Write your beats per minute here. There's a space for it. And that's your beats per minute before HRV training, before heart rate variability training. Okay? Got that? Everybody got that number? Should we do it one more time, or everybody got it? Everybody got it? I hope you got it out in Digitalville. All right, okay. We all got that. Now we're going to do these 3x3 breathing. So just, question? No. We're going to do 3x3 breathing. And when you're doing this, I want you just to think about a peaceful place in your life. All right? And try to focus on some warmth around your heart. Just, I know it sounds goofy, but your heart, be gentle to your heart, okay? This is the mind-body connection. We got a lot of research on the goodness of this stuff. So we're going to do heart rate variability training for 3 minutes, okay? I'm going to sit right here and do it with you. All right. Ready, set, go. So 3 seconds in, 3 seconds out. 3 in, 3 seconds out. 3 seconds in, 3 seconds out. Remember to feel the warmth around your heart. Nice job. That was 3 minutes. Now I want you to take your pulse again. I'm going to say ready, set, go. And when I say go, take your pulse for 10 seconds, and we'll multiply that by 6, and that'll be your beats per minute after the training. Ready, set, go. Stop. All right. Multiply that number by 6, and that's your beats per minute after 3 whopping minutes of heart rate variability training. Just out of curiosity, how many people had a lower heart rate after than before? Raise your hand. Lower. Yep, a good number. Now, if you had a higher number, that doesn't mean you're a bad heart rate variability trainer, okay? It means you may have had something called caffeine or something called sugar, okay? Those can all raise your heart rate. And besides, heart rate and heart rate variability are two separate things, okay? But I wanted to show you a physiological power, which would be the heart rate, of heart rate variability training, okay? Question?
Yeah, Jim, would this work on blood pressure too?
So I don't know the research on blood pressure. I'm sure it would help. So I'm positive it would help. Blood pressure, I know there's research on blood pressure with diet. I just worked with somebody, she had right on the cusp of moderate high blood pressure, and I invited her to change her diet for 30 days. No meat, mostly vegetarian, about killed her. She did it, and her blood pressure normalized. So just an observation. But I also did invite her to do this as well, but I also told her to follow her doctor's orders, obviously, right? So I'm not a doctor, and I'm not her doctor. Yes? Gotta wait for the mic. We got...
Yeah, my heart rate's up. When I go to donate blood down at the Red Cross downtown,
Yeah.
I do that breathing thing, and it makes a difference. And when they, it starts out at 83 and it ends up at 66. And all I did was the breathing thing.
Yes, thank you. That's just indicator right there. Again, this mind-body connection is really cool. So thank you for sharing that. You all heard that, right? Good, awesome. All right, so that's the power, that's some of the power there of heart rate variability training, all right? Any other questions on now there's a lot of research on heart rate variability, okay? And again, don't confuse just a pulse number with heart rate variability, right? Because they're two different things. But I wanted to show you the power of this rhythmic breathing when it comes to simple pulse rate. It's pretty powerful. Okay. Any questions on anything we talked about thus far?
With the sleep number badge, they give you a printout of everything. I'll let you know what you did. And the higher it is, they say it's how you handled stress throughout.
Yeah, you didn't need me.
But I don't know if everyone heard in the back. It's about a sleep number
So
bed.
the sleep number bed has a HRV built into it. It gives a report of of how stressed you were, and then and how you handled it. Yeah. So some of those are, I don't know the science on that. Some of those are really good, and some of those aren't so good. Like the Apple stuff and like these things you put on your, you know what I mean? I'm not sure. The gold standard, of course, is going to your doctor and get your heart rate variability. You can do that actually, Or the monitor that I have is decent, So, but if it helps you, that's great. I think that's great because at least it gives you an awareness. Exactly, it gives us an awareness of, hey, watch the stress, right? Watch the stress, because again, not all stress is bad, right? But what we do with it can literally kill us or help us. So, thank you for that comment. Yes. Sorry.
Who, where? Okay.
So for this training, would you do this every day, multiple times a day, just
A couple
before
times
you
a
go
day.
to bed?
Yep. So the question is a really good question. So for this training, how often would you do it? However the 3x3 felt. So for me, I couldn't do 3x3 anymore. I just got to do 5x5s. So wherever you're at, maybe you can't do 3x3s. That's fine. But start with 2x2s, right? But don't hyperventilate. Go slow, right? And then just do it a couple times a day. Until you build up to 5x5s comfortably. That's important, comfortably. Yeah. Does that address your question? Yeah, just kind of continue to do so slowly. It took me a while to build up to that. So there's no shame here, right? It's like, oh, this is new knowledge. This is good stuff. So that's a good question. You have another question?
If you have difficulty going to sleep, it's a good thing to do when you first lie down. For me, it does. It helps.
I love that. So the comment is that it helps you sleep, right? Do you do the rhythmic breathing or? Yeah, beautiful. I actually do too. I do too. I do the 5x5 breathing when I lie down. Yep, I love it. I do it every day. But I also do it when I'm stressed. I remember working years ago, there's a little story, with the anesthesiologist from the hospital who had a lot of high stress, and we were working on this stuff, and we were talking about this mind-body connection, about deep breathing. And this person wasn't doing the deep breathing. So I invited this person, let's start doing that. And they were doing it, and they were amazed at the results. So it's a simple intervention, but it's packed with power, just packed with power. So please don't poo-poo this just because it's simple. It's simple but not easy, right? It's not easy because it's simple. See what I'm saying? It's easy to say, I already breathe, Jim, forget it. Well, yeah, you breathe, but we don't breathe like the way the science is shown is the best way to breathe, to engage the parasympathetic nervous system. That's the key with it. Any other comments or questions? Cool. All right, then let's move on. So the next one is the second way to really help our parasympathetic nervous system is practice intentional gratitude. And here is the powerful mind-body connection. I know Dr. Hoover talked about this earlier, but I want to talk about it again, okay? This kind of blows my mind away, that we've got studies that show that when I'm intentionally grateful, when I'm intentionally thankful, it activates my parasympathetic nervous system. Isn't that crazy? I just find that's that mind-body connection. I'm doing nothing but being thankful, and I'm getting a biological reward for it. Isn't that great? It's incredible. So my invitation is every day, focus on 2 to 3 things, right, that you're thankful for in that day. And ideally, mix them up, right? Don't always be the same 2 or 3 things. Challenge your brain a little bit, One thing, Reese, I've been sharing with people is just throughout your day, just be intentional about what you're doing. Like, so for example, when you're eating, to say thank you for this food, to nourish my body. Or when you take a drink of clean water, thank you for water. There are billions of people around the globe who would want a drink of water, and I've got some. That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you for shelter. Thank you for this prolonged fall. Amen? It's beautiful outside. I was just appreciating the trees out here. It's gorgeous. So when we do these daily gratitude exercises, it literally activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is absolutely incredible. It's free therapy. It's free therapy. Who doesn't want free therapy? I mean, come on. So this is good stuff. So be intentional about that. Very important. Be intentional about that. The third one is to use daily meditation. Daily meditation. So I meditate every day. I've been doing so for years. And I absolutely love it. It activates my parasympathetic nervous system. It changes your brain chemistry. I don't know if are you familiar with BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor? I didn't write it down, but you can if you want. BDNF, you can Google it later. Brain-derived neurotrophic factor. We've got research that shows when I meditate, my brain increases more of that. I had a good question about how do you do this more naturally? Meditation will increase BDNF. What's BDNF? Brain-derived neurotrophic factor. What is it? It's miracle grow for your neurons, okay? It's literally fertilizer for your neurons. Meditation increases the size of your hippocampi, okay? Of the hippocampal structure is deep in the brain. It's the memory structure. It's more than that, though. Like every bit of who you are, all the neural processes goes through the hippocampal structure, okay? Unfortunately, Alzheimer's starts in the hippocampi. So when you increase the size of your hippocampi, you're helping your brain, right? So when I first learned about brain biology during my second master's degree, we learned that, the brain can't change. It's quite static. You got what you got, you got what you got. That was in the 90s. And I was like, I don't believe that. That doesn't flow with my anthropology. I don't believe that. Why would my skin, create itself? Why would my stomach realign itself completely several times a week, right? My skin replenishes itself, right? I don't buy that. Well, then about 10 years later, we discovered neuroplasticity, right? Which is now the law of the land. Our brain can continue to grow. And BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, helps with that growth process. Meditation increases BDNF. Huge, huge. So that's addressing your question you asked earlier. I want to get back to that. What can you do naturally? You increase your BDNF by meditation. And I'm going to teach you meditation here in a minute. Any questions then about, what we've been talking about? Any other questions before we move on to meditation? That's the next subject. All right. So here's the deal. There's a ton of different forms of meditation, right? And when you do a search on it through the National Institute of Health or National Institute of Mental Health or whatever, or you look up journals, psychological journals, looking for studies, et cetera, you're going to find a ton of different ways to do it, okay? I teach a very simple 4 key elements to meditation. It's very simple, and it's very doable, all right? And we're going to do it right now. So the very first thing for meditation is to find a quiet place. This will do, okay? A quiet place, okay? And as a part-time stay-at-home dad since 1999, this is not a given, okay? It's not a given because I raised our kids. It's very, very involved. Then I washed my hands real good and saw clients second half of the day. So a quiet place. The second key is to have a word or a phrase that you kind of repeat to yourself slowly, but under maybe 12 syllables. The brain likes to chunk data. Okay, so you might love one of Shakespeare's poems, but it's longer than 12 syllables, so don't meditate on that, okay? But you want to find a word or a phrase. If you don't have a word or a phrase, then I'll give you this one right now. I can be peaceful. That's a word, that's a meditation you could meditate on right now or anytime in your life. I can be peaceful. How? How can you be peaceful today? How? Yes, by meditating, by activating your parasympathetic nervous system, right? That P, right? You can be peaceful. So that's a phrase right there if you want that phrase, okay? So that's the second one. The third is what I teach is a semi-passive attitude toward incoming thoughts. A semi-passive attitude toward incoming thoughts. When we slow down, a semi-passive attitude toward incoming thoughts. When we slow down to meditate, I can guarantee you, You're going to get a ton of thoughts, okay? And that's part of life, right? It's okay. So the positive thoughts, the neutral thoughts, I just let them wash over me. Fine. Yep, I know you're there, but I'm meditating right now. No big deal. But if there's some negative thoughts in there, I don't want that. I just say no to that, and I go right back to my phrase. Nope, I am peaceful. That's a semi-passive attitude toward incoming thoughts. Slightly different than other people teach. Why do I do this? Because I try to follow our body. I love our bodies. Have I mentioned that? Okay. What does every cell in your body have on the outside? Every cell has it. The trillions of cells in your body, every cell has it. A semi-permeable membrane. What's its job? Let in the good, keep out the bad. Okay? It's sort of like our brain. I want to let in the good, I want to keep out the bad. Okay? So when I'm meditating and, good or neutral thoughts are coming, that's fine. But if there's a bad thing there, I just say no, and then I go right back to I can be peaceful. I can be peaceful. In other words, every cell in my body and in your body, we don't let everything in. It's judicious. The cell membrane says, you happen to be some fecal material? No, you're not coming in because you'll kill me. Oh, no, you happen to be a virus? No. I've got a receptor that says no to you. Okay? So that's what I incorporate in meditation. And then the last one is quality and not quantity. Quality, not quantity. Okay, if you can only meditate for 30 seconds, but you can do this for 30 seconds, good for you. Because it was 30 seconds more than you did yesterday, if you haven't meditated. Right? And if you do that several times today and several times tomorrow, before you know it, you'll be to a minute. Before you know it, you'll be to 2 minutes. Before you know it, you'll be like where I'm at sometime, where I'm just, after 20 minutes, I want more. After 10 minutes, I want more. It's like, oh, this is so good. Okay? And it's just so good for our bodies. It's just so good for our bodies. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It increases the hippocampal volume. It creates more BDNF. It lowers blood pressure, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? Helps our immune system. Okay. Any questions on those four? Oh, she's up for the mic. That's awesome. She's like this. Okay. Any questions on those four? Pretty clear?
Okay.
Now, and again, remember, if you haven't done this before, well, that's fine. But I'm going to invite you to do it now. We're going to go for, we'll go for 2 minutes. We'll try 2 minutes, okay? And if you don't have that phrase, I gave you a phrase, okay? So we're going to take your pulse rate again. All right? Oh, you know what? I've got 3 minutes. Yeah. You want 2 or 3? I'll leave it up to you. What do you want to do? 3. All right. I love that. We'll go 3 minutes. Okay. Okay. I'm going to take your pulse rate one more time. So, or you're going to take I'm not going to take it. You're going to take your pulse rate one more time. And I'm going to say, ready, set, go. And then when I say go, start counting. And when I say stop, stop counting. Okay? Ready, set, go. Stop. Okay, that's your beats for 10 seconds, so multiply that number by 6. And that's your beats per minute now before meditation, okay? So write that number down, whatever. Should we do it one more time? Should we do it again? Yeah, let's do it one more time. We'll take your pulse one more time. That's no problem. We'll take your pulse one more time. So, got it? Got it? Okay, ready, set, go. Stop. So multiply that by 10, and there's your beats per minute now. Okay? That's your beats per minute before meditation. Now we're going to do 3 minutes of meditation, and the invitation, now don't do this out loud, even though when I'm meditating at home, I do it out loud, but that would be kind of chaotic. Okay? So just kind of do it, say it to yourself for purposes of obvious reasons. So just go ahead and say it to yourself. But when you practice this tomorrow, which I hope you do, or tonight, you can find a quiet place and you can do it out loud then, okay? Because it's really powerful to do out loud, and you can hear grace-based self-talk, which is so important. I think we talked about that, right? Okay. So let us just take a minute now to calm ourselves. Take a nice breath. And go ahead and start meditating on your phrase. Go ahead and start meditating. Nice job. That was 3 minutes. Now I'm going to take your pulse again. Everybody got your pulse? Okay, for 10 seconds. Ready, set, go. Stop. We'll do it one more time. So take that number, multiply by 10, and that's your beats after. We're going to take your pulse one more time so everybody's got it. Okay, for 10 seconds. Ready, set, go. And stop. I'm sorry, multiply by 6. Thank you. Thank you. So take that number, multiply it by 6, and there's your beats per minute after 3 whopping minutes of meditation, okay? So just out of curiosity, how many had lower after than before? Oh, more than last time, more than the heart rate variability, yeah. That's awesome. I love meditation. I love to teach it. I love to do it. I try to do it every day. It's awesome stuff. Okay, I'm aware that I've got 4 minutes left, and we're sitting pretty. So, question? Question.
Yeah, what exactly is meditation? Do you just repeat the phrase over and over, or do you think of the implications and how you might achieve it? And what it would be
No,
like?
it's more of, thank you. The question is, what is meditation? Do you think about the phrase over and over, or do you think about how you can implement it? You think about the phrase over and over. Yep. Yep. No, well, either or. The brain actually doesn't mind rote. It doesn't mind that chunking stuff. But yeah, you can think about it. Yep. It's either or. Yep. I personally like to think about it. But yeah, yeah. Oh, sure. There's another form right there is to listen to your heartbeat. Absolutely. You can do that too. That's what I started this by saying there's like probably over 100 ways you can meditate, right? So this is the one that I teach. Other meditators will teach something differently. So good. Any other questions? Oh, yeah. How do I what? Oh, wow. The question is, how do I love more? Wow. Well, that's a whole nother talk. Okay. So, and my wife and I actually give that talk. Okay. We really do. It's a very good talk. But it's about marital intimacy, right? And about verbal intimacy and emotional intimacy and connecting with each other spiritually, verbally, emotionally, temporally, sharing things, et cetera, et cetera.